It's important to remember that it wasn't just Bulliver with a history of firsts. Citizen too have their fair share of firsts in the industry. Citizen were the first to launch a watch with multiband for atomic time back in April of 1993. This was using the Caliber 7 400, which retailed at approximately £650 or $900. Not only that, but Citizen were the first company to bring titanium watches to the consumer back in 1970. The X8 Cosmotron chronometer was launched, pun intended, just 1 year after the moon landings in 1969. The watch had a coating of super titanium, which is Citizen's proprietary product, which means that it's more gentle on the skin, so it's hypoallergenic, scratch resistant, resistant to rust, it's lighter, and it has a rather unique colour. Citizen is a company that never stops seeking to innovate, and they always seek to improve their design and their technologies. We can see this in the following picture of antennas from 1993 to 2008. The antenna grew significantly smaller, however, still offered that quality Citizen functionality that consumers have come to expect.
He likes to find a bargain. Vintage or used will do. But if it needs a service, then he will buy new.
Hello my friends, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to take a look at the Citizen Promaster Land PMD56-2952. This is a really fascinating, really interesting watch. We're going to dive straight in. There's so much to talk about. We really quite seriously could run the risk of talking about, maybe 20 minutes about this watch. So let me go ahead and give you the rundown. The specs are insane on this model. Let's start by saying this is a JDM, okay? That stands for Japanese Domestic Market. If you're new to the watch world, you're just starting out collecting, or even if you've been collecting for a while, you might or you might not know that JDMs, they are produced for the Japanese market. They are not necessarily intended to go around the world, but people like myself, we import them. And this is completely fine, completely legal to do. And it means that you end up with fascinating watches because, let's be honest, the Japanese tend to keep the best for themselves. And as much as I admire that, I kind of wish that they would just open up all of these these splendid watches to the rest of us, because they are just so interesting. So let's start off with the specs. We're looking at, without the crown, we're looking at a 41mm case diameter, just a 12mm case thickness, which when you find out the specs, you're going to be blown away by that. Bandwidth is a regular 20mm, so you can put this on, a different style bracelet, or maybe a NATO if you so wish. Something to be wary of, and I didn't know this when I purchased the watch, but you only get enough links to size this for a 7.5-inch wrist size, which is 19 centimeters. If your wrist is bigger than this, do not buy this watch, unless you don't mind changing the bracelet maybe. I took one link out, and that's sort of how the watch sits on my wrist. It's quite snug. I can just about, if I squeeze a finger through, and this is where we come on to one of the first features of the watch. It does have a push button deployment. I have a thing with people saying deployant, it's deployment. There's debate on whether deployant is even a real word. We'll get into that in maybe another video one day. But anyway, you push the button, it releases the strap here, and it gives you just a little bit of extra wiggle room. Now, this is not a diver's extension as I first thought, but it's actually just a way of sizing the bracelet. Quite a clever idea. Okay, let's talk about the specs. So this has Duratect DLC, so it's a diamond-like carbon, so they say. Okay, it's treated titanium, which means that it's going to be really hard to scratch this thing, and it also means that it's got anti-rust properties. It's resistant to corrosion, and if heaven forbid, you know, the watch caught fire, it should actually be quite resistant to fire. That's also because the watch is titanium, which means it just weighs about 99, maybe 100 grams. It is a super light watch. Comes with a push button clasp, so once that clasp, there you go, just folds over, it is stamped with the word Citizen there. Once that's on, it really does feel quite snug. It does feel fairly premium as well. Simply lift up the clasp, double push button, press them both, and there you go. That just releases into quite a well machined, again, titanium fold over clasp here. Really quite good quality. No quality concerns here. It does feel pretty good. Next up, we've got the screw down crown. If I turn the watch on the side, hopefully you can see it does have the Promaster logo. So this is a screw down crown. If you look really closely, hopefully the camera's focusing, you can see the knurling, which is all these kind of little grippy dots. That's called knurling, and that's actually on the screw down crown. So it does have a really lovely feel, really nice, easy to grip when you take the screw down crown on or off. You won't actually be taking the screw down crown on and off too much, because the watch is, not only is it a quartz, but it's atomic time. We'll come back to that in just a second, because that is a bit of a bugbear. The sapphire crystal on top, yes, it has a sapphire crystal. It's curved, it's a little bit domed. It does have anti-reflective coating. A slight negative is that I found, depending on the angle you wear it, it might be a tiny bit difficult to see the time, just because of that dome. It kind of creates a... it just makes it a little bit difficult to see. I'll throw in some video footage so you can see what I'm talking about. The caliber in this is a H100 movement. It's accurate. If it doesn't get the radio time, the atomic time, then it's accurate to 15 seconds plus or minus per month, which is still pretty good. You know, it's a standard quartz, I guess. It does have power save mode, so if the watch ever has a low battery, it means that the watch will tick twice every couple of seconds, and it'll just let you know that, hey, that needs power. That's the low charge warning. Power save mode, the watch will do all kinds of things to try and save power if you put the watch in a dark box for 6 months, for example. There is overcharge protection, which is fantastic, because it means if you give this more sunlight than it needs, let's say the battery is fully charged and it's still getting sunlight, fear not, it's not going to damage the battery. Again, this is an eco drive, so solar powered. So this is going to soak up all the energy from the sunlight or artificial light, and it's going to power the rechargeable lithium battery inside, which is said to last for between 20 and 40 years. Just fantastic. Next up, another feature. I know it's getting crazy. This is unbelievable. The watch has something called Perfect's automatic hand correction. So the watch is constantly on the lookout for being, you know, if you knock the watch and the seconds goes completely out, it will try to correct that and fix that for you. The second hand, I'll put the watch a little bit closer to the camera. My second hand mostly hits every single marker, mostly. It does deviate ever so slightly. I'd say probably a hair. It really literally is about a hair width away on some of the bottom bottom right hand side markers. But that just seems to be the way it is. The hand correction, what you can actually do is you can actually take the day and date function. By the way, it's got a day and date as well. you can actually ensure, unfortunately it's 1/4 past the hour, so you can't see right now, but you can actually push in this top button here. You do need something to jam in there, maybe like a toothpick, something quite small. Hold it for 5 seconds, and that will send all the hands to the top. The motor inside is quite slow, but it will eventually get all the hands to the top, the 12 o'clock. And what will actually happen is that you can twist and twizzle the crown and actually set the date. Now, it has to be set on Sunday the 1st, no matter what the date is, because remember, it's going to get the atomic time. You just need, that's the correction position. So you set the watch to, it will automatically go to 12. All hands will point to 12, and then all you do is you set it to Sunday the 1st. And sometimes the Sunday can be too high, or the date can be too high. If you just wiggle them and then you twist the crown backwards, it'll kind of move them and then stop them. And you want to line them up perfectly, so you can manually line up the date window perfectly. You've probably seen some footage in this video of just how nicely they are lined up, so that's great. Day and date display. You can even switch between English and Japanese, so yes, it does have the kanji characters if that's important to you. And of course there is loom as well, so I'll throw in a loom shot. Okay, right, we've talked about this a lot. There's an awful lot of features. Let me just show you the back of the watch as well. In fact, I'll throw in a picture of how it looks. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it on the camera, but I'll throw in a picture of how that looks. Because it does have a beautiful, the back is beautiful. It looks like as well you can pop the back off. I'll throw in a picture of that as well, because it looks like you can pop off the back. So if you ever needed a battery replacement, perhaps you could do it yourself. It does say send in to Citizen, but I think you may potentially, on this model, you might be able to do it yourself. Anyway, with that being said, let's take a look at the watch, because we've not really talked too much just yet about the actual the way it looks. So I think it's rather beautiful. It's quite an interesting one, because it's very much like some of the other Promaster watches. It's kind of like the Ray Mears model. I will get you the model number for that right now. But what I mean, it's like that in the sense that it's got the numbers, the 10, 11, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7 and 8. And it just reminds me quite a lot, really, of the BN0118-55E. Very similar to that one, although the differences are that that's 300 meter water resistant, this is 200 meters, and that one doesn't have atomic time. It is titanium, but that version doesn't have a day and date, it just has the date. So this is probably, in my opinion, the better watch. This is really, quite honestly, an incredible watch. Titanium, you've got the Duratec coating, supposed to be 5 times harder than untreated stainless steel. But this is already titanium, so this is a super strong watch. It doesn't feel as tough on the hand as the Promaster Tough, but it still feels pretty damn good. You've got the Eco Drive lettering, you've got a yellow second hand. All around the dial, if you look really closely, you'll see at the top it says no, then RX at the 12, and then it's got high, medium, low over on the right hand side. If I push this button here, it spins round to no. And if you actually look really closely, between the 11, it forms the letter N. It looks like it does anyway. And that looks, I don't know if it's by design, but it certainly looks like it might be. And then when you have got the signal, I'll throw in a video on top of this now, you'll see that it actually almost looks like it forms a Y for yes. If Citizen have intended this, which I think they have, It's absolutely out of this world. It's unbelievably clever. So if you haven't received an atomic signal and you press this, so I did not receive an atomic signal last night. And this is where the downside comes in, a really rather large downside. This watch can only get the signal from the JJY tower, the atomic signal in Japan. And that is simply because it's a Japanese domestic market watch. It was never intended to go out to, the rest of the world, really. So it's a humongous shame. But what you can actually do is you can download a emulator. On the iPhone, it's called Clockwave, and there's one on Android called JJY Simulator. And all you need to do, if you have got one of these watches, all you need to do is on your Android, open up JJY Simulator. You have to use some speakers, such as these two here, some earphones. You put them directly underneath the watch, and then you hold in this bottom pusher for about 4 or 5 seconds. And what's going to happen is the hands are going to go to RX, which means receiving. And it's going to take about 8 minutes. It does take a short while, but then it will automatically get the correct time, the correct day and date to the second. This thing has got a perpetual calendar. That's another feature, by the way, perpetual calendar, which goes right the way through to the year 2100. Okay, so this watch is pretty much going to outlive all of us. It's insane. It really is crazy. You've got a nice bezel here, which is IP coated. It looks rather special. Overall, to be honest, this is the watch I've always wanted. It's I guess you could call it a field watch, but it has the kind of, you could take this in a business setting. You could take this, absolutely take this, to do sports. It really, I just think this is a kind of do-it-all watch. And yeah, you could call it a field watch, but it just kind of does everything you need it to. Just going back to the solar power, just want to give you a wrist shot of this. The EcoDrive movement, this movement, it lasts for 6 months once it's fully charged. If you give this no light after it's fully charged, you're going to get at least 6 months there of movement. Now, I realise this is a little bit awkward. I might throw in a better shot of this watch. But that's how it is on wrist, 7.25 inch wrist. I think it fits like a glove. There's still a little bit of wiggle room. It doesn't really pull the hairs either. I've maybe pulled one, but it's not a hair puller, this bracelet. But overall, it really is, I think, in my humble opinion, I think it's one of the best watches I've ever owned. The slim design, the way it looks, case back, just how light it is, it's unbelievable. So what I'm going to try my best to do is I am going to try my very best to build a Raspberry Pi sort of home-built JJY simulator. It has been done, instructions are online. I'm going to try to build one, and if I'm successful, I'm going to bring you guys a tutorial on how you can do this, because I don't really want, every single night this will try to sync up at 2 or 4 a.m. in the morning, and it just seems like a waste of a attempt to get the atomic time if it can't get it outside of Japan. And yes, you can sync this up with the phone. However, I think I would quite like to build a home-built simulator. Every single night, place the watch on top, and that will feed in the signal to the watch and basically trick the watch into thinking I'm in Japan, but give it the UK date, And just for reference, if you do that, if you try to sync this watch up with your simulator, it will give you the time in your respective country. Just because you are not in Japan, it doesn't matter. It will still sync it up with your local time. So don't worry too much about this. Let me just see if I've got an application here. I've not got the application on this phone, but never mind. But yeah, that's basically how it works. So Let me know your thoughts, any questions. Oh, by the way, this I probably should tell you, this has solid end links. I didn't even mention. This is one of the more expensive Promasters. It's probably about £400 plus, or probably, gosh, in dollars, that's going to be at least $500, I should imagine. At least, maybe $550. But it really is worth it, in my opinion. I've handled many different Promasters, many different watches on the channel, and this really does seem to come up top trumps. If you do want to resize the bracelet, it does have the pin collar system, which is a bit finicky, maybe another downside. But for me, aside from the obvious, which is the atomic signal only working in Japan, you know, there are ways around it, but I think this is the quintessential. I think this is probably the best Promaster, the best watch, maybe, that Citizen produce, especially at this price point. It's absolutely, put it this way, I've sold all my other watches pretty much aside from this one. If I can get the atomic signal working in a little Raspberry Pi device, I kind of cracked it, guys. I think this is it. Citizen, if you are watching, if anyone from Citizen ever watches this, please remake this watch in the UK and just add the multi-band. So the US, the UK, you know, China, Germany, the people in Europe, so we can all get this watch, because this thing would seriously be a #1 top seller if this worked outside of Japan. It really, really would be. I'm saying it here now on the Simon the Watch Guy channel. If this came out with multi-band 6, it's the watch that makes you think, why do I need another one? Even for collectors such as myself, why do you need another watch when this one exists? It's that good. And yes, I'm always quite positive about watches. I don't really slate watches too much on the channel, but this one is seriously something special. I'm just going to give you a close-up of the watch and a look at the side of it as well. Really quite slim design. Let me turn that around as well, so you've got a glimpse of this side of the watch. And just again back to the front. And that's going to conclude this review. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed wearing this watch. And to be perfectly honest, you know, seeing it change, seeing the date change from the 30th to, and it skipped over the 31st, it went to the 1st with that perpetual calendar. It was just the icing on the cake. Even if you don't get the atomic signal, it's still got the perpetual calendar built into the watch. It's an all-around fantastic watch. And by the way, this is an unpaid review. No one's paid me for this review. I know it sounds like I'm being funded, but I genuinely just love the watch that much. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts, any questions in the section below, and until next time, I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and again, just let me know your thoughts.